And welcome to another Capital Gains Tax Solutions Mastermind, where we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them, they struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options, and not having a clear plan is the enemy. Using a proven tax deferral strategy such as the deferred sales trust is an amazing way for you to create and preserve more wealth when exiting your highly appreciated asset, eliminate the need for the 1031 exchange, unlock freedom to invest at optimal timing, and make an impact with your wealth. Each and every week, we are breaking down what the deferred sales trust is, as well as sharing unique ideas and insights for ways to make the DST an investment, not an expense, how it's legal, why it works, and essentially if it could be a great fit for you or one of your clients. It's an honor to be able to be here and to share again. Today, let's start with this, the 20-mile march. 20-mile march, your $1 million exit with the DST. If you haven't heard of the 20-mile march before, Jim Collins in one of his books, or a few of his books, but one in particular, Good to Great, he talks about the idea of consistent performance over a period of time, having self-control not to overextend, and having a bottom line way to perform. And it's one of our key values here at Capital Gains Tax Solutions. It's called the 20-mile march. And we also, one of our strategic alliances is DLP Capital. And so we've kind of inherited it from Jim Collins and DLP and all of the above, but 20-mile march is what we're talking about. So let's start with this, okay? The 20-mile march emphasizes the importance of maintaining a constant pace, a consistent pace, not too slow, not too fast. Similarly, the deferred sales trust, or DST, offers you as an individual the opportunity to discipline your financial gains. If you think about it, the ability to defer 25 to 50% of the capital gains tax, or up to 100% of the capital gains tax and depreciation recapture, which oftentimes is somewhere between 25 and 50% of your total proceeds. Instead of taking a large lump sum immediately upon sale, the ability to defer this could help you to not have to be a little more disciplined, right? Perhaps it would lead to less rash decisions, like a 1031 exchange can often lead to rash decisions or quick decisions, versus taking a significant tax implication. So it's also kind of a way to pace yourself, if you think about it, from spending too much. It's kind of like an IRA or a 401k or a 1031. The government is incentivizing us to do a 20-mile march with our finances when they introduce these strategies that promote, in other words, promote patience, or promote delayed gratification is what I was looking for there. Because the DST allows for a more disciplined and consistent approach to pay tax over time as you receive payments back, rather than in the lump sum all up front, okay? So that's number one. It helps to create a disciplined and consistent approach that the 20-mile march also does. Number two is just planning ahead, all right? Just as explorers need to chart out a course and stick to their 20-mile march per day. And if you've ever read the book or looked at this concept, basically it goes like, hey, what if two explorers started on the West Coast and they're making their way to their East Coast, and if one marches 20 miles consistently every day, and the other one only marches when the sun is not too hot or when it's not too cold? Planning ahead helps to create a sense of consistency and predictability, right? So individuals using the DST also have a plan. They have a promissory note that plans to pay them over time, and also helps them to be able to plan consistently for, even life events that can come up. So by deferring the capital gains tax, they can strategically reinvest the cash that they would have paid of tax, grow their wealth, and it allows for a more measured approach to financial growth. Again, just like an IRA or a 401k would, or even a 1031 exchange, it's a great way for you to grow wealth. The next thing about the 20-mile march that I think connects with the deferred sales trust has to do with productive discomfort. So the 20-mile march introduces the concept of productive discomfort, and this is the idea of pushing oneself just enough to grow, but not so much that it becomes detrimental. In the realm of the DST, this can be likened to the act of deferring immediate gratification, like I was saying before, in the form of a lump sum for long-term financial benefits. There's a level of discomfort in not accessing all the funds immediately, but it's a discomfort that leads to greater overall financial growth and stability. And I also think this goes into the impact part of this, right? You can make a bigger impact the more opportunity you have a chance to grow your wealth, produce passive income to free up your time and your energy, and also to give yourself time to go ahead and make, more investments later on, whether that be active or passive deals. That's the beauty of the deferred sales trust. The next one would be performance markers. So consistently in the 20-mile march, it means meeting certain markers regularly. With the DST, performance markers can be set in the form of investment milestones or specific returns. We typically are returning 6 to 9% net of fees, and that's a compounding interest rate on whatever you put into the trust. And that's what's owed back to you with a balloon payment due in about 10 years, although you can make that shorter. But along the way, we're going to want to make sure we're looking for milestones and looking for performance, just as if you invested your funds separately and after you paid tax. So by constantly monitoring with the trustee, that's our role, a financial planner or financial advisor, and also with the commercial real estate investor groups that we work with, you can monitor and make adjustments based upon the markers. And that's really important. It's the compliance, it's the business planning, and it's the overall approach to investing with the team, right? Versus maybe feeling like a lone wolf. And that's the neat part about the deferred sales trust. It does bring people together to make sure that we're on the right track to help you achieve your long-term goals. There's 2 more left. The next one is long-term vision. In the 20-mile march, one of the people that was traveling across the country had a consistent approach again of 20 miles per day. And it wasn't about the day-to-day journey, but it was about the end goal. And similarly, the deferred sales trust is not just about deferring capital gains tax or immediate benefits for the savings or the deferral, but it's about the long-term vision of wealth accumulation, stability, and success for you and your family and your estate plan. The neat part of the deferred sales trust is it's very flexible for your lifetime and also for your children's. We can eliminate estate tax and allowing the impact for your wealth to go beyond just paying that 40% debt tax. It also helps to eliminate maybe some of what could be tension with kids that maybe want to do different things at different times with the wealth. One child may want to keep the real estate or keep the business. One wants to sell it. One is indifferent. And if parents of children, I have 5 myself, the last thing I want to do is to be thinking about them arguing over the wealth plan. And so the deferred sales trust helps to simplify that, because you can sell today and you can live off of the income stream, still invest the funds, but essentially the promissory note passes to the children, which in other words, the cash flow passes to the children, which helps to, I think, ease a lot of what could be a very stressful situation. The last thing with the deferred sales trust, it refers to the 20-mile march, has to do with building resilience. So the consistent approach of the 20-mile march inherently builds resilience as individuals weather both good and bad days, but stick to their commitment. Similarly, by opting to use a DST, individuals demonstrate resilience, choosing a path that might feel counterintuitive in the short term, deferring immediate gains, but proves beneficial in the long run with optimal timing, diversification, liquidity, and options to still be an entrepreneur. So in conclusion, the deferred sales trust, like the 20-mile march, is a tool for those who see the value in discipline, long-term planning, and consistency. When used effectively, it's not only provides tax benefits, but sets individuals on a path of steady, resilient, and purposeful wealth accumulation. With that being said, I'm going to bring in Jake Miller, one of our strategic alliances, financial advisors, and certified financial planners with Strategic Tax Solutions. Jake, how are we doing today?
Doing great, Brad. On the move here in Mexico, getting ready to fly to California. Got to show up and sign for a property that we're purchasing. All at the same time, where I'll be on this fantastic mastermind show with you.
Absolutely. And for our listeners, by the way, if you're listening for the first time, you can get to know all of us by going to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com or strategictaxsolutions.com with Jake. And we would love the opportunity to work with you and kind of plan out the deferred sales trust. So Jake, we're talking about the 20-mile march. Have you heard of this concept before? I'm curious. And what did you think about the monologue for the intro here, for the mastermind?
So I think it was fantastic in the fact that a lot of times people should challenge themselves to consistently make, I think the 20-mile march in everyday life, we should have our destination in mind. And even though 20 miles is quite the feat, and be able to do that in a short period of time, it actually made me remember when I was in boot camp, right? So for everyone who doesn't know, I'm a veteran. And we had to work up to, I think it was a 26-mile march that we had to do. And this was work over a 4 to 5 week period of where we had to consistently do a lot of different exercises or training and then simply march. And we had different, weapons. We had to do it in the rain, in the water, in the mud, in the mud. Other times we just had to be consistent, keep it going. And camaraderie was very helpful. When you're doing your 20-mile march, proverbially, telling people about it and doing it with friends or challenging other people can be very helpful. With us in the military, in the Army, we always had a battle buddy with us, Brett. A battle buddy with us at all times. Somebody to be our check and balance. And all of these things came to my mind when you were talking about the 20-mile march out of Good to Great, or I can't remember which book it was.
Oh my gosh, I absolutely love that, Jake. And I think that's so, that warms my heart, right? Because I think the coolest thing about the Deferred Sales Trust is the opportunity to serve individuals at a high level as a team, right? As a team, and doing it together. And sometimes it feels like the tax code is so complicated and the exit you have is such a big exit, millions and millions of dollars of potential tax, huge impact for you and your family and your wealth moving forward. And it's almost like we as a team, we're all marching together, each of us with our specialty, and we're trying to make a huge impact for your exit. And we don't want you to fall behind. We don't want to get, slip in the mud and not be able to finish the transaction. And there's common things like, hey, is it too good to be true? Is it legal? Does it work? I just saw an IRS notice regarding a different transaction. Is it the same as that transaction? Is it too expensive? Who's the trustee, and how much control do I have to give up? And all of these things. And it's like we're marching and we're trying to show you that, hey, look, you're about to close and pay a huge tax, but we want to give you everything you possibly can to stay with us. And so this is part of why we try to share as much as we can without giving out the proprietary secrets of the trust. For those that are running about the legal track record, by the way, thousands of closes, over 27 years, over 24 no change IRS audits, batting 1,000. It does have a private letter ruling, and it has tens of thousands of tax returns over all of those years, and it's never had a single change on any of those audits, which gives me confidence in what we're doing. But at the same time, it's a great responsibility to make sure we're doing it in the right way, so we're not the ones to take it out of compliance or get a red flag on it. So, Jake, any thoughts on that? Just the team approach and the sensitivity to make sure we're all doing this together.
It's imperative that we have a team with us to guarantee success, if that makes sense. Somebody on their own, they might be able to accomplish some great feat, etc. People do it, and it's very recognized when they do it. But if you want to take away a lot of the risk, you want to bring people to the table who've been there, done that before, and can take you through this 20-mile march again, because they've done it. This is the team to do that with a Deferred Sales Trust. These people right here are the people who've done it before with their clients. They've done it before with sometimes their own wealth. And this is the way to associate yourself with somebody else who's been through the same scenario and had success.
Absolutely. And also want to welcome Jake Carpenter, who's also one of our strategic alliances I work with, a wealth advisor. Jake, how are we doing today?
Absolutely wonderful. Happy Friday, everyone.
Yeah. So we're talking about this concept of the 20-mile march, right? Which is a concept from Jim Collins' Good to Great, and how the Deferred Sales Trust helps individuals obtain a great performance with their wealth by not only being able to defer the tax, but also getting a team to help march with you forward, whatever that might be, that goal, that vision, that impact you want to make with your wealth, Jake. As a wealth advisor, how do you think the DST aligns individuals to march together to help the client, reach that 20-mile a day goal?
Well, you see, performance is traditionally based on the ability to diversify appropriately, right? So we want liquidity, we want diversity, we want the ability to change and move in directions based on market. changes. And so one of the things that the deferred sales trust can do is it can unlock a significant amount of liquidity that is in a non-liquid asset where someone might be way over, they're over concentrated in a specific asset class. They can sell that highly appreciated asset. They can realize those gains. They can stay liquid. They can diversify out into things, not just in income producing real estate or businesses, but stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and anything else that you think of, even hard money lending.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's the beauty of the deferred sales trust is it gives you the ability to march in whatever direction you want to go, whether that be as an entrepreneur and partnering with the trust and running another business or building another piece of real estate. We just did a $13 million exit for our car wash sale out of San Diego. And for these gentlemen, one wanted to just, honestly, not even march anymore. He wanted to just pay his tax. So one gentleman paid his tax. The other three were still ready to go on their next march. But their next march wasn't right away. It wasn't back into real estate right away. In fact, they sold right before interest rates really jumped high and they got a good deal. And they waited and they're waiting even now to invest. They're going into some passive, shorter term debt deals that are semi 30-day liquid. They're going into the stock market. They're looking at securities and T-bills. And essentially it gives them the opportunity to march when the deals make sense, right? So they're still marching, but they're marching at a pace that is not active right now. It's more passive. And so sometimes you want to be active and sometimes you want to be passive. And the ability what Jake was saying with the flexibility is you can do both and you can do it at different timings based upon your unique goals and what objectives you're trying to accomplish.
You get better, so you can get better diversity. You can move in different directions. And one thing that you just brought up was something we're looking at opening up another larger $30 million deal. And a lot of these folks are younger and they're successful and they've got kids that are in hockey and different types of sports things. And what we basically talked about is, hey, if we liquidated the portfolio and we sat on the sidelines for 5 to 7 years while your kids got through high school and sports and everything else, and then once those passive assets sell and come back to you, that liquidity comes back, now we can redeploy in an more active manner because the kids are graduated high school. So we're basically hitting pause for 5 to 7 years and then going back in. Or you might be on the other side where you're a little older, you've been active and you want to start becoming more passive. This gives you the ability to do that.
Because I think that's really great insight, because sometimes as your kids are gone, a lot of clients, and they want to be more active with their grandkids, right? Or they want to be more mobile location wise, right? Move out of different states, relocate, move closer to their kids and so they can spend time with their grandkids. And it's almost like choose your active, choose your passive. For the longest time, a lot of our clients have chose to be active with their business, with their investments, with their real estate. And they're saying, it's time, it's time for everything, right? In the great book, it says there's a time to harvest, there's a time to plant, right? There's a time for peace, there's a time for war, right? There's a time to harvest and sell and be active or be passive versus being active, with the investments. In fact, it reminds me of Warren and Catherine, who just sold their property in Sacramento, and they had 2 twin daughters. They had a little bit older in life. And they're right around the early 50s, right? And they're saying to themselves, wow, we've got 2 twin daughters and now 10 years old. We've got about 8 years until they're, let's say in college or moving on to more adulthood. Do I want to be spending my time at 4 or 5 hour, driving traffic to and from the property out of Sacramento and back? And for what, right? When I can use the DST, not only can I defer the tax, it was 15 units. We sold it for about 2.5 million. Their NOI was about 120,000. With the DST, their NOI or their cash flow would be about $180,000 to $190,000. So he said, I can not only be done with rent control, done with the fires that have been, been a big challenge for that part of the Northern California, the insurance costs, all of the challenge with owning and being active for so long. And what that really did, though, was not only increase his cash flow financially, but it gave him the chance to be more active with his kids, more active with his daughters at ages that are, I have kids right now too, between the ages of basically 5 and 13. I'm like, there's only so many more years before a lot of them are going to be doing their own thing, right? So I think that's so powerful, that impact you can have by using the DST, but not having to give up, like you said, Jake, once they're in college or their way. Mom and dad might be looking around and being like, hey, we want to get going again, right? We got a second wind here. We got more time and energy. Let's go start that business. And I think that, and let me also ask you this one too, Jake. Here's a third act I'm seeing. The kids go back to college or go away from college, and mom and dad now want to partner with the kids on a business venture, or they want to buy a piece of real estate with the kids on a business venture. And so now all of a sudden you're merging the two, where you can be active together. In other words, the deferred sales trust can be a joint venture partner with you to fund that dream. So what are your thoughts on that, Jake?
Yeah, that's a really good point, because there's so much variety that they can do in partnering with their kids. If their kids are interested in real estate, the problem with 1031s is if it's a good time to sell, it's a good time to sell. It's not a good time to buy, but you got 45 days to identify something they have to buy. So now they can partner with their kids. They can take some time to find the right project. It doesn't even have to be real estate. It can be business. And then, work that scenario the way they want to work it, instead of having to follow some kind of stringent rules.
And I think it's the theme of today, the 20-mile march with your $1 million exit with the DST, is asking yourself and clarifying, what march do you want to be on? I know for my family and I, we recently started a new march. We moved out of California. We've been marching there for about 40 years, and we relocated to St. Augustine, Florida, where we're starting a new journey and a new march, if you will. And it's been great because it's a new adventure. It's new beaches. It's new, Disney World and Universal Studios and all of the East Coast to access all of these different journeys and different trails that we can blaze. And for us, for our timing of our family, it's been amazing. And then my question for you, if you're listening, is what is your next march? What is your next journey? What is your vision for your time and your energy with your family? And is exiting your asset today and to be able to defer hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars of capital gains tax to be able to free up your time and your energy? Is that your next march? And if it is something you're considering, we want to encourage you to take action right now. Go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com, schedule your one-on-one consultation with myself or one of my team members, or you can reach out to Jake Carpenter by going to carpentercapitalllc.com, carpentercapitalllc.com, or even Jake Miller, who you heard from before, at strategictaxsolutions.com. Yes, we're all separate companies, but we all work together to build the team to help you with your march. And that being said, I want to pass it back to Jake Miller. I think he is in a cool spot, by the way. Jake, where are you hanging out today? I mean, I know you said you're somewhere cool, but what's going on over there?
I'm here on the west coast of Mexico. So some of our clients have invested in a tequila operation. Some of our clients are looking at a beachfront property for glamping. And when I say some of our clients, these are DST clients who were effectively able to defer the taxes on their money. And they look for active business opportunities to put their money and keep it working while they haven't had to yet do this profit share with the government, this profit share called taxes, right? So here we are, and we have to, here's a silly thing, Brett. When you don't have, in today's day and age of technology, I want to say that everyone here, we're pretty tech savvy in the sense that we're on a Zoom call. A little bit of an inconvenience. I have to leave Mexico, go to San Diego. I have to sign in front of a notary for the purchase of a property. And in today's day and age, there's even like notarize.com. There's a lot of different ways that you can go around and do things a little bit different. But a specific title company that I'm not really sure why we use requires that I be in person on U.S. soil and that I sign like that. So things that we do, and that's, again, that comes back to the importance of having a strong team behind you, where I can leave the negotiations here and I can leave it in the hands of really qualified, wonderful, amazing people. I can do a quick hour-and-a-half flight, 2-hour flight. I can sign a paper. I can fly back, and everything still works. And that's the importance of having wonderful people around you, right?
Absolutely. We walk a team, we pick up where others, where sometimes we need someone to fill in, and we work as a team and we march together. We do have Micah coming in here. Micah, I don't know if how much you've heard of us talking about this 20-mile march, but maybe we get the female touch here. The men have been talking a lot. What's going on with you, Micah?
Yeah, the overriding thing that I'm really liking and kind of picking up on today is just the options of choice. I mean, we've talked about it a lot in different ways, but I mean, people don't like to be put into a cookie cutter situation. And that's really what the DST does, is it helps you break out and have other options available to you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's exactly right. And that being said, I want to open it up now for anyone who's with us today. You can put a question in the chat. You can also feel free to unmute your mic, and you could say hello to us. If you have a live deal question or comment and encouragement, whatever, we want you to say hello to us, and we can dive in on anything you'd like to talk about, of anything we've talked about today.
I'll chime in really quick, and then you guys can, if someone has a comment or something, they can bump me off. But, if you're watching this right now, most of our clients that we've worked with, they're fairly successful. They've been doing it a while. They have a team of their own professionals. They've got CPAs, attorneys, real estate brokers, financial planners. We are not, as a deferred sales trust team, we are not trying to replace them necessarily. Sometimes we can if we need to. And the deferred sales trust is not a be all end all. So it's not trash everything that you've done in the past and do the deferred sales trust. The deferred sales trust is nothing more than a tool, and Jake Miller calls it a keystone, right? That can work with the other strategies that you've already set in motion to address taxation. Maybe it's income tax, maybe it's federal estate tax, maybe it's state estate tax, but now we're talking about capital gains tax. So we need to three-dimensionally address all the different tax liabilities that you have. And if you haven't addressed the capital gains tax issue, this can be an element that will blend with the other planning that you've done to make sure you're managing tax flow so that we can maximize cash flow.
Very well said, Jake. It's all about building a capital gains tax exit plan. And by the way, we also wrote a book, if you're curious. It's called Building a Capital Gains Tax Exit Plan. It's on Amazon, hit #1 bestseller. You can check that out. We have the Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank in the book. Pretty cool. I've got a couple chapters, and then Jake Miller also has a couple chapters. Jake Carper didn't make the book this time. We couldn't get to his publicist in time. He will for sure be in the next book, but you want to check that out, Building a Capital Gains Tax Exit Plan on Amazon. Okay, cool. Well, we've been going for about 30 minutes here. I don't see any questions in the chat. We could have Micah toss some up for us to go through. Micah, you want to toss some in the air, that maybe a frequently asked question or a thought that might be helpful for everyone to have us answer for them?
Yeah, no, I have another comment just for a second. So in regards to like what you put your assets in with the DST, we do have people that occasionally, you have your own professional provider, your like Jake Carpenter was saying, but sometimes you want to try something different than what you've done for the past 20, 30 years. And so that's where you can kind of branch out and make it a little different. So I did want to kind of make that, kind of emphasize that a little bit more. Now, some of the probably the just frequently asked questions are like how do I get started? Where do you go? Like, what do you do first? What's kind of the first things, or even how do I know if I need to do a deferred sales trust?
Absolutely. Yeah, I can start with that last one, right? Maybe like who is it not for, and then we can kind of do like step by step with Jake Carpenter, and then maybe Jake Miller also when he's in a good spot. So it's not for someone who wants to spend all the money or need to spend all the money all right now. Now, of course, you can live off the cash flow and just pay tax slowly over time. And that's what most of our clients are doing. They're structuring the promissory note with a partial interest payment. They're deferring the rest of the income and the capital gains tax. Perhaps they've eliminated the estate tax if they're using the DST 2.0. But we first want to clarify, what are you trying to do? Where are you moving? Or, why are you making a sale or a change? And when we determine that, and if you say, what do you need the money for? We'll determine if it's a good fit. So that's the first thing. Like if you need or want to spend all on your primary home or all on your yacht or your cars, anything that's basically personal consumption, that's going to be taxable. But for the part where you say, no, I actually want to invest, or I want to do in a business or the stock market or real estate, and I'd like to keep the money invested in investment purposes, then that's a good first start. So that's number one. Number two, your deal is not qualifying because it's not a large enough transaction. Now, it's technically not a minimum, tax law that says you can't use a DST for $100 sale or $100,000 sale. But we have found that $1 million net proceeds, $1 million gain is the best way to build a capital gains tax exit plan, because it gives enough pain, and pain being the tax, and enough gain that you would have had to pay the tax to substantiate to have the trust. It's kind of like if you buy apartment complexes and you're like, hey, if I'm going to buy 4 units or 6 units, why not buy 40 or 60, or why not buy 100 or 120? In other words, the more you can scale, the more it makes sense. And so you want to make sure there's significant amount of tax liability that is going to be paid that can fuel the trust to be able to be invested and deferred so that you can earn interest on it. So you have to have a qualifying transaction, like say $1 million net proceeds, $1 million gain. You want to make sure you're not spending it all on yourself. Now, if you have another strategy, or you have carry forward loss that you haven't used yet, perhaps you can offset that. You also might find a perfect 1031. We're not going to say that you can't find 1031 opportunities. In fact, as a real estate broker myself, completing over $500 million in commercial real estate brokerage transactions with 1031 exchanges and deferred sales trusts. We love a 1031 when the deal makes sense. And so if you could find a 1031, they're definitely less expensive and you have all the timing lined up. Now, if you have a failing 1031, or even before you do 1031, still get with us if you're planning on doing that, because we can be a backup plan if you work with us to structure the backup plan. Make sure, because not every QI company wants you to know about the DST, nor do they know how to do it. So make sure you get with us. And I think the last one would probably be, you just need or want unilateral control. Like you're just like, you know what? I just can't imagine working with the third-party trustee where there's some rules in place that we have to follow for the investments approval and for the movement of funds. And that's our role, by the way, is a third-party unrelated trustee to work with you and work with the financial advisors like Jake and Jake here. So that would be the main ones. Mike, any thoughts on that?
No, I think you hit those right on the head. I really do.
Perfect. Now go to Jake Carpenter, maybe the steps, right? Maybe
I'm going to chime in really quick, because I think some people are really scared to, quote unquote, give up some control. And I'm going to share from personal experience, right? From Brett, some of Jake Miller, Brett Swartz, myself, we all work together. Sometimes all of us literally working on one case. Our clients are so excited once they start working with us and see what we're doing together, and the synergy and the plan that we're putting together, that they oftentimes refer us to one after another. And then when we're doing the due diligence with their CPA goes, gosh, I've got other people that you guys probably need to talk to as well. So I encourage you, if you're on the fence or skeptical, go through the due diligence process. If the sales proceeds you have not earmarked for Corvettes or yachts or primary residence or anything, I'm a Corvette guy, so anything that that's personal consumption, and the total sales proceeds over $1 million and over $1 million subject to capital gains tax, that's where you really want to consider starting the due diligence process. And that's where we would sit down, Brett Swartz and I, the tax attorney, we would meet with, or Jake Miller and Brett Swartz and the tax attorney would sit down with you and your CPA, your attorneys, your professionals, the decision makers in your world. And we would go through a process of question and answer. and vet out whether this is really an appropriate strategy for you. Because our job, Brett, Jake Miller, Micah, and myself, our job is not to sell this strategy. It's to help you make a decision through educating you on what your options are so that you can make a decision on whether this is going to work for you. So that would be kind of the beginning process.
I love when the DJ voice and just the smooth and the calm of Jake. I just love Jake Carpenter. Jake Miller, do you want to come on in too? You want to talk about the steps if someone's like, okay, I've heard enough. I'm ready to take action, Jake. I've got a deal. We're going to close in 30 days. Do we still have time? What would be a 1, 2, 3 step? And maybe Micah can also jump in there too if your connection is a little bit off.
No, I think you guys can hear me okay, right?
Yep.
Very good. No, so literally right now, Brett spoke with a client yesterday. He's got a $6.5 million deal. So probably in the next 7 days or so, he's going to meet with you, myself, the attorney. We're going to go through the process. He's got a letter of intent. Attorney's going to add a paragraph or 2 to that letter of intent, what have you, just so that up until the 11th hour of closing, they have the right or the option to utilize a deferred sales trust to sell that asset. And essentially, there's a pre-sale before the sale. We have the guy's business. It's a $6.5 million business. It'll move over, be assigned to, or be sold to the trust, kind of like a wash sale, where they're in exchange for that, in exchange for the asset, the shares in the C corporation, it will now that the individual will be the proud owner of a promissory note against the assets of the trust. What's in the trust? Well, there's the business until the business is sold. That business being sold, the wonderful thing here is the individual has not received constructive receipts of the proceeds. What does that mean? If the individual didn't receive the money, it was the trust that received the money. The individual doesn't need to pay taxes on something he hasn't received. And this is the magical piece of how this all works. Now, that's not the end of the story. Now that the trust has the money, the trust can now have a life of its own. It can move forward, it can reinvest. In a holding time frame, we can put money in treasury bills, we can put money into a dynamic portfolio in the stock market, or we can invest in non-liquid assets. His business, where the proceeds came from, wasn't really a liquid asset. And we can continue to invest in other non-liquid assets as we move forward, other business ventures, or since the power of timing is in our hands, as was mentioned earlier on, based on people's life circumstances, maybe they want to be with their kids while they're growing up, all these other things. Maybe they're just going to want to put it into a 5-year investment and come back when the kids are out of the house to be entrepreneurs again. All of these things now become options to them. And that's why there's a team of people like everyone here on this call that helps navigate the options for every client's specific life scenario, what makes most sense and what they can do. And, people are empowered when they're educated and when they know what their options are. And at the end of the day, that's what we do is we bring options to the table. We educate, and we educate the clients, their advisors, their spouse, their Uncle Jim, whoever is important in their decision-making process. We help them know what all their options are, and we help provide that knowledge with supporting documents that is not just, hey, believe in me, I know what I'm doing. It's, hey, this is where it says you can. And that is very liberating for a lot of people.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Jake. Mike, anything else to add to that?
I do. Yeah. So I was just going to say that it just breaks my heart when somebody comes to us and they say, oh, I have sold my business and I've already closed on it and now I have to pay tax. So what can I do now? That's what we're trying to get the word out, is that there are options available to you, but you have to get it in the right timing. So if you've already sold that property, you've already sold your business, we'll have to catch you on the next one. And we just want to get the word out so that people don't have to pay the taxes.
It's a great point. I want to make sure everyone caught exactly what Micah said too. It's always good to hear it twice. So if the property has closed escrow and the funds have gone to your personal account or your business, it's too late. But if you're under contract or you haven't even found a buyer yet, And as long as the buyer hasn't removed what's called all contingencies, right? There's at least one remaining. We do have time to weave the deferred sales trust in, and that's why we're encouraging you to take action. If you're even considering selling anything that's $1 million net proceeds, $1 million gain, we work on a no cost consultation basis where we'll review your sale, look at your unique fact pattern, figure out what goals that you're trying to go towards for your wealth plan, and then have the option for the deferred sales trust to be inserted into the purchase and sale agreement or the APA or with your LLC, depending on the entity structure that you have and your partners and all of those things. But here's the key. You want to be early. You want to plan right now. You want to start to have the blueprint so that we can build, and you don't want to wait until the 12th hour, or sometimes it's really tough because the buyer might use it, as a negotiation piece, right? If you don't introduce it early, they might see it as if they're doing you a favor, right? But we say, introduce it ideally prior to the even listing or the property getting offers. Therefore, it's not a surprise, or we're not having to rush around. So get with us early, no cost, no obligation. Start today. Go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com, strategictaxsolutions.com, or carpentercapitalllc.com. All right. So that's 42 minutes. Pretty good. Mike, anything else that you want to toss up, or how are we feeling on this Friday?
So I just want to
Jake? Yeah.
make sure the listeners understand this. If I've got a sale, Brett, I can come to you and your team and I can do due diligence. You guys can evaluate my situation. You can even set up the trust. And if I decide not to pull the trigger at the very last minute, how much am I going to have to be on the hook for?
Zero, right? So, literally we'll talk with your team, your CPA, the M&A advisor, the brokers, escrow. We will form the trust. And it could be the 99% of the deals done. We've done all of the work. And for some reason, the buyer backs out, financing hits, there's war in Ukraine, whatever. Like, you just decide not to do it. You owe us zero. There's zero owed. We have no retainer. So it's literally a no cost, no obligation due diligence. We only get paid if you use the DST and if your deal closes. That means your deal could still close and you decide not to use the DST. That's fine. You still don't pay us, right? So we're not even saying that, hey, you sign the engagement and then if it closes, you must pay us. It's only if you sign the engagement, your deal closes and you chose to use the DST that you pay us, right? So we believe in what we do, and we believe in taking the pressure off of being forced into transactions that you're not quite sure you're going to want to do until you've had a chance to get to know us, like us, trust us, talk to our clients, talk to our strategic alliances. We'll map out a wealth plan. So, Jake, does that answer the question?
Yeah, that is why if you're there, if you're out there and you're wondering, should I do the due diligence? What's it going to cost me? What am I on the hook for? I would really encourage you to engage with Brett Swartz, myself, Jake Miller. Get that process going. Get the due diligence done so you know whether or not you want to do it. And it doesn't really cost you anything unless you decide that it's working for you and you actually use the deferred sales trust.
Very well said. Jake Carpenter, if people want to get in touch with you, where can they find you?
Yep, it's carpentercapitalllc.com, or you can call me at 509-396-5292.
Micah Miller and Jake Miller, if people want to find you, where can they find you?
Yeah, we are at strategictaxsolutions.com or 800-773-1848.
Fantastic. And for anyone who wants to find me, Brett Swartz, you can go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. You can also check out, again, the brand new book that's on Amazon, Building a Capital Gains Tax Exit Plan. We'd love the opportunity to work with you and your team and your advisors and your brokers and the CPAs and like anyone else that has any questions, bring them to a call with us and we will do our best to give you your options and see if the DST is a great fit for you. In the meantime, I encourage you to keep up your 20-mile march, whatever march you're on right now. Keep staying disciplined and focused on that march. If it's marching towards your exit planning, obviously, We're here for you to help you with that next phase, next chapter, next part of your journey with your wealth plan. We so appreciate everyone out there, and we look forward to being here next week. Same YouTube stream, same Twitter stream. And if you're wanting to actually join this amazing mastermind, you can go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com as well, and register. Okay. Thank you so much for watching or attending or